Mohandas Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. lived in countries on different sides of the globe, in different generations, and in different cultural settings. However, they both fought against the shackles of oppression using nonviolent resistance. One of the first modern statements of the principle of nonviolent resistance was stated in English poet Percy Bysshe Shelley's The Mask of Anarchy, a political poem written in 1819 after the Peterloo Massacre of that year. A crowd had gathered to demand the reform of parliamentary representation. The poem describes a gathering of citizens protesting and not raising an arm despite being met by armed soldiers. It also mentions the consequences of violence met with pacifism. Shelley writes, "The guilty will return to society ashamed, and it will be clear that they have committed a crime against humanity." Thomas Weber writes in his book, Gandhi as a Disciple and Mentor, that Gandhi, quote, does not mention Shelley very often in his writings, although he does seem to know Shelley's poem, The Mask of Anarchy, which encapsulates his ideas of bringing about the conversion of a foe through self-suffering, and Gandhi quotes this poem later in life, end quote. Shelley, of course, being a political rebel, had a large impact in Thoreau's writing on civil disobedience, which in turn influenced Gandhi, especially while Gandhi was in South Africa. Then Gandhi, upon his return to India, was a pioneer in implementing civil disobedience on such a massive scale. Finally, Martin Luther King Jr.'s efforts in the civil rights movement came some years after Gandhi's death. King himself stated that the efforts of Gandhi had a great impact on his thinking.
In theological seminary days, I had heard of Gandhi, but I remembered hearing a message by the president of Howard University, Dr. Mordecai Johnson, who had just returned from India. He spoke in Philadelphia on his trip to India and the whole philosophy of Gandhi and passive nonviolent resistance. Now, I was so deeply moved by the message that I went away and bought several books on the Gandhian, on Gandhi and Gandhian technique. And at that point, I became deeply influenced by Gandhi, never realizing that I would live in a situation where it would be useful and meaningful.
It is clear that King admired Gandhi's implementation of his ideology, which King refers to as Gandhian technique, as well as the ideas themselves. Gandhi's derivation of satyagraha, meaning truth force, from the basic nonviolent resistance ideal, likely resonated strongly with King as a minister, who understood the role and power of truth and could also relate to Gandhi's spirituality especially well. Perhaps the most concise picture of the connection between Gandhi and King is this. A modern description of nonviolent resistance was explored by figures such as Shelley and Thoreau. Gandhi was influenced by these ideas in his studies as well as during his work in South Africa. He applied these concepts effectively in India, and finally, King was profoundly intrigued by Gandhi's methods and found truth in his words and actions. In fact, King traveled to India, to Gandhi's birthplace, in 1959. The trip deepened his understanding of nonviolence, and before his trip back to America, he made a radio address including the following words about Gandhi.
Since being in India, I am more convinced than ever before that the method of nonviolent resistance is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for justice and human dignity. In a real sense, Mahatma Gandhi embodied in his life certain universal principles that are inherent in the moral structure of the universe.
Today, Gandhi and King have left us examples to follow. They have made the world a better place to live, not only by what they achieved through their own actions, but by giving us powerful tools to effect change and fight oppression in our own times.